Hello everyone, welcome to Sleep History Channel. In the winter of 1897, inside a dimly lit archive room in London, a young historian named Elias Carter made a discovery that would erase his quiet life forever. The room smelled of dust, leather, and time itself. Ancient scrolls and maps, some older than recorded history, were stacked like forgotten corpses. Elias had spent years chasing dead civilizations, but that night something felt different. It began with a box, not a grand chest, not something labeled or catalogued. Just a small, cracked wooden box hidden behind a fallen shelf. No markings, no record of its existence, and yet it felt important. Elias hesitated. "Strange," he whispered, running his fingers along the lid. "Why? Would this be hidden?" The lock was rusted. It broke easily. Inside lay a single object, a map. But not just any map. It didn't show countries he recognized. The continents were distorted, as if drawn from a perspective lost to time. At the center of it all was a massive landmass labeled in a language Elias had never seen before. Beneath it, written in faded Latin, Regnum Obscurum, the kingdom of all shadows. Elias frowned. That's impossible. No historical record mentioned such a kingdom. Not in Rome, not in Persia, not in China, not anywhere. And yet, the map was old, very old, older than any known empire. Chapter 2, A Kingdom Without Memory. Elias couldn't sleep that night. He spread the map across his desk, staring at it, under candlelight. Every detail seemed deliberate. Cities marked with strange symbols. Roads connecting continents that should not have been connected. Even more disturbing, there were annotations, tiny notes written in the margins, almost invisible. He leaned closer. They ruled before memory. They fell before history. And they will rise when forgotten again. Elias felt a chill crawl down his spine. Who wrote this? He muttered. But the real question was, why had no one ever heard of this kingdom? History remembers everything. Even the smallest tribes leave traces, pottery, bones, ruins. But this, a kingdom that supposedly ruled the world, had vanished completely. Chapter 3. The first clue days turned into weeks. Elias searched endlessly through archives, libraries, and private collections. Nothing, no mention of Regnum Obscurum. Until one night, he found something, a journal, written by a sailor in 1623. The entry read, "We sailed beyond the known waters and found land that should not exist. The people there spoke no language, yet we understood them. Their king, he knew our names before we spoke." Elias's heart pounded. Another line caught his attention. "They told us their kingdom once ruled all lands, but mankind chose to forget them, and so they disappeared." Elias slammed the journal shut. This is real. But how? How could an entire civilization vanish just because people forgot it? Chapter 4. The Curse of Forgetting. The answer came from an unexpected place. An old professor named Harold Whitmore. Elias visited him late one evening, bringing the map. Whitmore studied it silently for a long time. His hands trembled. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "In the archives." Whitmore looked up, eyes filled with fear. "You shouldn't have opened that box." Elias frowned. "You know about this?" Whitmore sighed. "There are stories, ancient ones, about a kingdom that mastered something beyond power." "What kind of power?" Whitmore whispered. "Memory." Elias froze. They discovered a way to exist only as long as they were remembered. Their empire grew, not through war but through influence. Every culture, every civilization, they touched them all. "Then what happened?" Elias asked. Whitmore's voice dropped. "The world united and chose to forget them." Silence filled the room. "That's impossible," Elias said. "You can't just erase something like that." Whitmore looked at him. They didn't erase the kingdom. They erased the memory of it. Chapter 5. The Truth Beneath History, Elias. Began to see patterns, strange gaps in historical records, unexplained similarities between distant civilizations. Symbols that appeared across continents but had no origin. It was as if something had connected them all. Something that history refused to remember. Elias whispered to himself, "They were everywhere." And then a horrifying thought struck him. If remembering them brings them back, his eyes widened. Then forgetting them keeps them dead. Chapter 6. The Awakening. That night, Elias dreamed. He stood in a vast city of black stone. Towers reached the sky. The air hummed with something alive. And at the center, a throne. A figure sat upon it. Not human, not entirely. Its eyes glowed like dying stars. "You remember us," the figure said. Elias tried to speak but couldn't. "You have opened the door." The ground beneath him cracked. "You will not be the last." Elias woke up screaming. Chapter 7. The Consequence of Curiosity. Things began to change. People around Elias started forgetting things. Small things at first, names, faces, places, then larger things, entire events. One day, his colleague looked at him and said, "Have we met before?" Elias felt cold. "No, this is happening again." He rushed back to the map. The symbols. They were changing, expanding, as if the kingdom was growing. Chapter 8. The Return of the Forgotten. Elias realized the truth too late. By discovering the map, by remembering the kingdom, he had begun to bring it back. Every person he told, every note he wrote, every thought he had, strengthened it. The kingdom didn't conquer lands. It conquered memory. And now, it was returning. Chapter 9. The Final Choice. Elias sat alone, staring at the map. He had one option: to destroy it, to erase every trace, to forget. But that meant no one would ever know the truth. No one would remember what once ruled the world. His hands trembled. Do I save humanity or preserve history? Chapter 10. The Last Entry. Elias wrote one final note. If you are reading this, it means I failed. Do not search for this kingdom. Do not try to remember, because the moment you do, they will remember you too. The journal ended there. Epilogue. You shouldn't be here, and now you are reading this. You know the name, the Forgotten Kingdom, which means it knows you. Elias burned the map. At least, that's what he believed. The flames swallowed the ancient paper slowly, curling its edges into black ash. The symbols twisted as if alive, resisting their fate. For a moment, Elias swore he heard whispers. Thousands of voices screaming in a language he almost understood. Then it was gone, reduced to nothing. Elias exhaled, collapsing into his chair. It's over. But something felt wrong. The room was quieter than before. Too quiet. He stepped outside into the cold London night. The streets were familiar, but not entirely. A shop he passed every day, gone. In its place stood an empty wall. Elias blinked. No, that's not possible. He turned around. The street signs looked different. Not wrong, but slightly altered, like reality had been rewritten with small mistakes. Then he noticed something else. People. There were fewer of them. Days passed and the changes became impossible to ignore. Entire buildings vanished overnight. Libraries. Lost books that had existed for centuries. Historians began arguing over facts that were once certain. Elias kept notes, desperately trying to hold on to reality. But even his own handwriting began to confuse him. Did I write this? he whispered one morning, staring at a page he didn't remember creating. The words read, "You cannot destroy what is remembered. You only make space for it to return." Elias felt a sharp pain in his head. Memories were slipping, faces of loved ones blurred, his childhood home. He couldn't picture it anymore. No. This wasn't just happening to the world. It was happening to him. Desperate, Elias searched for Professor Whitmore, but when he arrived at his house, it was empty. Dust covered the floors as if no one had lived there for years. "No, I was just here." Elias stumbled back, then he heard a voice behind him. "You're too late." Elias turned. A man stood in the doorway, tall, pale, unmoving. His eyes were wrong, too still. "Who are you?" Elias asked. The man tilted his head slightly. "I am what remains." Elias's heart pounded. "You remember them, don't you?" The man continued. Elias didn't answer. The man smiled faintly. "That's why. You're still here." The man introduced himself as Aurelian, or at least, that's what he called himself. "I am one of the last who remember the kingdom," Aurelian said calmly. "And therefore, one of the last who exist outside its control." Elias frowned. "I don't understand." Aurelian stepped closer. "The kingdom does not simply return. It replaces." "Replaces what?" "Everything." Elias felt his stomach drop. "The more it is remembered, the more reality reshapes itself to include it. History rewrites, geography shifts, people disappear, because they no longer belong." Elias whispered, "So, the world is being overwritten." Aurelian nodded. "And you are helping it happen." Elias learned the truth that had been buried for centuries. There had been a war, not with swords or guns, but with memory itself. Long ago, the Forgotten Kingdom had spread across the world, embedding itself into every culture, every story, every belief. It didn't need armies. It needed recognition. As long as people believed in it, even unconsciously, it grew stronger. So humanity did the unthinkable. They united. Every civilization, every empire, and they made a choice to forget. Books were burned, records destroyed, languages altered, even myths were rewritten. It took generations, but eventually, the kingdom faded, not destroyed, just forgotten. "But there was a price," Aurelian said. Elias looked at him. "What kind of price?" Aurelian's expression darkened. "To erase the kingdom, humanity had to erase parts of itself." Elias froze. "What do you mean?" "Entire histories were sacrificed, knowledge lost forever, civilizations rewritten into something smaller, simpler, safer." Elias shook his head. "That means our history isn't real." Aurelian replied quietly. "It is real, just incomplete." That night Elias saw him again, the king, standing at the edge of his dreams, watching, waiting. "You cannot stop what has begun," the king said. Elias forced himself to speak. "Why are you doing this?" The king smiled faintly. "We are not conquering your world. We are returning to it." Elias clenched his fists. "You were erased for a reason." The king's eyes darkened. "No, we were betrayed." The sky behind him shattered like glass. "You forgot us." The changes accelerated. Entire cities began to shift. Maps became unreliable. People reported seeing places that shouldn't exist. Black stone towers appearing in distant horizons. Strange symbols carved into buildings overnight. Elias saw one himself, on the wall of his own home, a symbol from the map, glowing faintly. "They're here," he whispered. Aurelian gathered the few who still remembered. There were only 7 of them. 7 people in the entire world who still saw reality as it once was. "We are the last resistance," Aurelian said. Elias looked around. "That's it? 7? Aurelian nodded. "Everyone else has already begun to forget." Elias clenched his jaw. "Then what do we do?" Aurelian answered, "We do what humanity did before." Elias knew the answer before he said it. We forget. Again. Forgetting wasn't simple. It required complete erasure, every thought, every memory, every trace of the kingdom. Even this story would have to disappear. Elias felt a deep, painful realization. If I forget, I won't exist anymore, will I? Aurelian didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "Not as you are now." The seven gathered in silence. No grand ceremony, no magic, just a decision. One by one, they began to let go. Names faded, faces blurred, memories dissolved. Elias felt himself slipping. The map, the kingdom, the king, all fading. But just before everything disappeared, he saw something. The king, smiling, a voice echoed in the void. "You cannot forget what has already returned." Elias tried to resist, but it was too late. The kingdom had crossed the threshold. It no longer needed memory. It existed. Epilogue. A world rewritten. The year is unknown. History is different. Maps show a vast empire at the center of the world. No one questions it. It has always been there. The forgotten kingdom is no longer forgotten. Final line, and somewhere, deep inside your mind, a thought forms. Has it always been this way? No one remembered when the kingdom returned, because, in their minds, it had never left. Children in schools studied its history as fact. Maps displayed its vast dominion stretching across continents. Kings and rulers bowed to a central throne that no one had ever seen, but everyone accepted. It was simply called the center. And at its heart, a city of black stone. No one questioned its origin. No one asked when it was built, because the moment a question formed, it dissolved, like a thought that refused to exist. In a small village at the edge of the empire lived a boy named Arin. He was nothing special, no prophecy, no destiny, just curious. One day in class, his teacher pointed to the map. "This is the kingdom," she said. "It has always ruled the world." Arin raised his hand. "Miss, what was before it?" The room went silent. The teacher froze. Her smile faded for just a second. Then she answered, "There was no before." Arin frowned. "But that doesn't make sense." The teacher's eyes sharpened. "You are thinking too much." The other children avoided looking at him, but Arin couldn't stop. That question, why? It stayed. That night, Arin dreamed. Not of the kingdom, but of something else. A different world, a world without the black stone cities, a world where maps looked different, where people lived without fear of asking questions. He saw a man, older, tired, writing in a journal. The man looked up, straight at him. "Remember," the man whispered. Arin woke up, breathing heavily. Who was that? Days later, Arin found something strange buried beneath the floor of his house, a book, old, worn, hidden. Inside, a single page remained. Everything else had been torn out. The page read, "If you can read this, it means the world has changed. Do not trust what you see. The kingdom was not always here." Arin's hands trembled. This isn't possible. But deep inside, he knew it was true. The more Arin questioned, the more things began to break. He noticed people repeating the same phrases, the same movements, like they weren't fully real. One day he asked his mother, "Do you remember anything before the kingdom?" She smiled softly. "There is nothing before it." Arin pressed further. "Try to remember." For a moment, her expression changed. Confusion, pain. Then she collapsed. That night they came, tall figures, silent, eyes empty. They stood outside Arin's home, watching, waiting. He felt it instantly. They know. Arin grabbed the book and ran, through the forest, into the darkness, away from everything he had ever known. After days of running, Aaron found something impossible. Ruins, not of the kingdom, but of something older, broken buildings, strange structures, symbols that didn't match anything he had ever seen. And in the center, a statue of a man holding a map, at the base carved into stone, Elias Carter. Aaron's heart pounded, the man from my dream. Inside the ruins, Aaron found more pages, fragments of a lost journal, Elias's journal. It told the full story. The kingdom, the war of memory, the sacrifice, and the failure. Aaron read the final line, "If someone remembers, there is still hope." Tears filled his eyes. I remember. The sky darkened. The air changed. Aaron turned and saw him, the king, standing before him. "You should not exist," the king said calmly. Aaron stepped back, but didn't run. "You're not supposed to be real," Aaron replied. The king smiled. "And yet, here I am." Aaron clenched the journal. "You rewrote the world." The king's voice echoed, "No. Your kind abandoned it." Aaron realized something. The kingdom's power wasn't just memory, it was belief. As long as people accepted it, it existed. But if someone truly rejected it, questioned it, remembered something else, it weakened, Aaron whispered. "Then I don't believe in you." The ground trembled. The king's expression changed for the first time. The world around them began to shift. Two realities colliding, the kingdom and the world before it. Aaron saw flashes, cities disappearing, old landscapes returning, voices screaming. The Sauti. King stepped forward. "You cannot fight this alone," Aaron shouted. "I don't have to." He held up the journal. "I just have to remember." Something incredible happened. Far away, a girl paused. "Wait, something feels wrong." A man dropped his tools. This wasn't always here. A teacher hesitated mid-sentence. The kingdom. It. Cracks spread across the world, memory returning, slowly, painfully, but surely. The king staggered. For the first time, he looked afraid. "This is not possible." Aaron stood firm. "You were forgotten once." The king's voice broke. "And we returned," Aaron replied. "Then we'll forget you again." But Aaron understood the cost. To erase the kingdom, everything tied to it would vanish. Cities, people, even parts of history, maybe even himself. He closed his eyes. "I choose the truth." Light consumed everything. The kingdom, the king, the black stone city, all fading. Aaron felt himself disappearing, but he smiled, because this time, humanity would remember. Epilogue. A world restored. The world was different again. No kingdom, no black. Stone cities, history, imperfect, incomplete, but real. People lived, unaware of what had almost happened, unaware of the boy who saved them. Final twist in a quiet museum. A historian opened a drawer. Inside, a small cracked wooden box. He paused. Strange. Slowly. He opened it. Last line. And somewhere, deep in the human mind, a whisper returned. "Remember us."